Welcome and get ready for a front row seat on Icons with Ava Johanna, the live show that is raising the bar in the entertainment space worldwide. You're about to be right in the middle of heart-pounding conversations and real-time connection that ignite transformation within. Our global live show stars the industry's powerhouses, visionaries, and cultural icons. Together, we'll walk the path of legendary entrepreneurs, influential business moguls, celebrities, and iconic brand architects. Join the conversation, seize the opportunity to engage directly with icons of their industries, and immerse yourself in an unparalleled learning experience. Icons isn't just a show. It's an opportunity to step into the minds and hearts of industry leaders and run with their advice. So grab your popcorn because this is the space where icons are born. Hello, everybody. Oh my goodness. I swear, I know I say it at the beginning of every single episode, but the trumpets, they just get me in that. I'm so excited for today though. And we are kicking off a huge, absolutely huge week. So make sure if you are here live with us or catching the replay that you say hi in the chat. Remember, this is a space where you are meant to take place in the conversation. So if you have questions, if you have any aha moments or breakthroughs that are coming up as I am having this conversation that I know is already going to be so powerful, and I personally, selfishly, is going to be super transformational with celebrity dietitian Kim Shapira. So Kim, thank you so much for coming on the show. I am so excited to have you here. You are kicking off officially the Vision Board Life Bundle podcast week, and I'm just really excited to share your magic and also share how people can collaborate and work with both of us through the bundle.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here too. Thank you for
So,
everything.
oh my gosh, of course. So there are so many different ways that we could take this conversation. And I feel like, especially as an entrepreneurial woman who is busy, has a packed schedule, nutrition and health and eating correctly has always been something that I have wanted to prioritize, but other pieces get in the way. And so I'm just really excited to have this conversation with you because I swear, I talk to women every single day, and it's like we all want to be healthy. We all want to eat well. We all want to have that balanced, rounded diet or, just nutritional lifestyle. But it's challenging and it takes effort and it takes work. And I think that there's so much value in not only demystifying the work that it takes, but what it actually gets to add to your life when you do get your nutrition and your health nailed down in a way that is like right for you.
Yeah. Sometimes I say saying no to something is really saying yes to yourself. And I think it's staying in that place of understanding when I say no here, I'm really saying so much yes to my life tomorrow and the rest of my life, right? We're so like not short-sighted, but we have such short-term memories that we don't even remember what we're doing or what our goals were. And then all of a sudden there's like a shiny little object being dangled in front of us. And I'm like, yes, here I am. I forgot that I wasn't going to, fall into this trap.
Yes, 100%. That's actually, it's interesting that you bring that up because recently I have been having that conversation with myself around food or around alcohol. And, I've always been someone where I'm like, I don't like restrictions. I want to be able to have what I want to have. Like I come from a family of chefs, and so there's lots of cheese, lots of wine, lots of really rich food, and it's all incredible. But every time I go home, I'm there for like 10 days and I leave and I feel horrible. And it's
Yeah.
like the yes that I said for that momentary like binge of all of this really delicious food has actually set me up for multiple weeks of not feeling good. So
Yeah.
it's perfect timing that you brought that up.
Yeah. Sometimes we have to watch where we allow this violation of our own boundaries to exist and be very protective of ourselves. But we have to really know ourselves first
Hmm.
and be able to separate what's us and what's someone else or someone else's intention. Right. And we have to be very clear on who we are and what we want.
Yes, which is so big in the food, nutrition, and health space. So how did you get into this world? Where did you begin? What really sparked the passion and inspiration for supporting your clients in the way that you do?
I mean, one of my favorite quotes of all time is she needed a hero, so she became one. And I would have called myself a sick kid. In fact, I did call myself a sick kid for many, many, many years. I was in the hospital having multiple different surgeries when I was 12. It was 1986. And I was just always sick and always recovering. And a doctor mentor of mine told me that food could make you sick or healthy. And I kind of latched onto that because all I wanted to do was be healthy. And, so I went to graduate school, I studied nutrition, I studied psychology, I studied kinesiology, all the things. And I immediately started a private practice. And my first client was a therapist. And I really always share that story and say it like that because I was 27 and she should have been smarter than me. And I didn't know what I didn't know then. And so I put her on a diet. She lost 30 pounds. And I'm like, I am totally winning. She's lowered her cholesterol, her blood sugars are regulated. Everything about her health is improved. And then she told me she was going to gain the weight back. And I felt like an epic failure because now I was hurting her health. And she said that her husband wanted to be intimate with her all the time. And she had been molested as a child and wasn't comfortable. And I thought, I don't know what I'm doing. It's not just about food. It's not just about eating kale. And so I really started understanding or looking at people's relationship with food. And when I was sick and like when I was 12, I used to go to UCLA every Wednesday and my mom would drive me. And at one point I must have been crying. And she said, "Don't cry, we'll go shopping after your doctor appointment." And it was another one of those moments where I was like, okay, that's a shiny object. I can now think about what I'm going to buy and I don't have to worry about the pain that I'm in. And it became like my secret identity. And so as soon as I started recognizing that my clients were eating the way that I was shopping, I started identifying that I needed to work on my shopping habits. And that's really where like my entire method came from. And I stopped putting people on diets and I started teaching them in the same way that I was teaching myself how to stay grounded and how to recognize that there was a sale every day and that I didn't need to rush out and buy something, like somebody doesn't need to rush out and eat something, that it's going to be right there. And we have to learn to trust that. Even like going back to your story, right? We don't want to upset people who are preparing food for us, but we also don't want to miss out on something that it's only going to be during this 1 week that we're going to be there. So there's so many details that are way more than kale is healthy.
Yeah. I mean, wow. Just even that story with your first client, it feels like it's just all so connected and so many magazines and media just want to make it seem so simple, right? Of like, you see, I think of like all the magazines when I was growing up that have like the catchy clickbaity, or I guess not clicking, open baity,
Yeah.
buy me off the shelf, little titles around like getting rock hard abs or just all of these very simplified catchy approaches to pulling people in
Yeah.
that is very like surface level. And I mean, you've been in this world for longer than just the Instagram ads and, what we see on social media. But it sounds like even before that, these like stories, these paradigms, these like traps and illusions have always been there, playing a part in the conversation around health and around diet and nutrition. So I'm curious, like, as you began incorporating and building out your method, more pieces beyond just eat this and don't eat that, what were the biggest aha moments or breakthroughs that you discovered maybe within yourself as you were approaching it, but then also as you were working with clients that led to lasting changes?
Nobody likes to be restricted. We immediately go into a temper tantrum mode or we start planning on like when we can have it, which is why diets ultimately fail because we set our sights on 30 days or 1 week or, 6 months, whatever it is, knowing that we're totally going to binge after or that we can have it back. Or sometimes it's just for the day. Some people can't even manage to get through the day. And so restrictions don't work. We can't rely on willpower. People think exercise is hard and not fun when it actually is and should be, right? And that people are there's just so much confusion. So I think that that's what I learned is that everybody is confused. Like
Mm-hmm.
right now, everyone's thinking high protein. And what about just protein? Like, why do we need to throw the word high in there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What happens when we eat protein and we don't have room in our body for it? I mean, a calorie is a calorie. And so that too will get stored as fat. And it's not going to deliver all the nutrients the rest of your body needs. I mean, there are so many dangerous things every single day
Mm-hmm.
that are being
Yeah.
said. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like intermittent fasting is one that I think of where like once I learned how hard it is on the female body, I was like, oh my God, why am I waking up and just having a butter coffee in the morning and then not eating for like 8 hours, 10 hours? Of course,
Right.
my hormones are crazy. Of course, I have cystic acne and I'm always bloated. I think it's so challenging because there's so many different voices and so many people, especially thinking about like millennials and Gen Z um, that I can relate to, where it's like there's so many people that you look up to online
Yeah.
who, whether they have good intentions or not, I like to think most people have good intentions, are sharing what's worked for them. And then like you're taking it as gospel. And so I'm curious, like when you're working with clients, how do you help them to maybe like detach from that shiny object syndrome or entrusting some influencer on the internet or a
Yeah.
magazine to be their source of, nutrition advice and diet advice?
Yeah. I'm so sorry. Can you hear my dog just like going
No,
crazy? Okay,
you're
good.
good.
Perfect. Well, I was just thinking about Kelly Clarkson, right? She just came out and said that she used a weight loss shot, didn't name which shot she was using to help her, and also went on a lectin-free diet. So lectins are in plant-based foods. And so now we're talking about like vegetables and fruits. And so, oh my gosh, right? And so what is that going to do to all of her fans? And we need every single phytonutrient and really good, powerful antioxidant, and vitamin and mineral in these fruits and vegetables. So the truth is we don't know what Kelly Clarkson was going through. And everybody is dealing with some sort of stress right now. I think we're all chronically stressed. I mean, look at our lifestyles. Look what we just even endured. Look what we're enduring, right? And we're not resilient enough. That's where, you come in and help us really become more resilient in our own bodies, which is the key to making good decisions, right? There's all different types of stress, and our mind and our body can't tell the difference between, a scary person with a knife walking past us and being hungry.
Mm,
All of it is stress. And so, kind of learning how to come back inside of you and honoring whatever your body is feeling is the key. Knowing where your mind is. If your mind is on Kelly Clarkson, why isn't it on you?
mm,
If your mind is on what she ate, why isn't it on what is good for your body? Right. And so we can't be, I mean, I'm so thrilled that she's happy and she's doing well. And let's hope that stays that way. That's what we want. But it's very important for us to be focusing on our own selves and advocating for ourselves, which again is she needed a hero, so she became one. We are the healers. We can have lots of teachers. And, even with this vision board and all of these courses, those are amazing coaches, every one of them. But if we're not taking action, we're not going to be able to heal.
hmm Yeah, I mean, it's all about what you do with it, right? And how it even lands within your system. Like your Never Diet Again masterclass, two people can watch it and go through the entirety of it and have two totally different takeaways that make leads to totally different implementation. And that's the point, right? It's not
Yeah.
meant to be cookie cutter. Our bodies, we're literally individual. And
Yeah.
so it's not supposed to be um the same for every single person. And I know that I personally have gone through a lot of having to take that step back and really like reevaluate, well, what is true for me? You know, even just as simple as like getting blood work done to realize, oh, I actually don't need to be gluten free, or I don't need to,
Totally.
restrict a ton of sugar or whatever it might be. Like that's actually not what my body is asking for.
Totally. And like back to the lectins for a second, like sure, you could have bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation. You could have a ton of different symptoms, but it's not all those foods that are causing the problem. And it just is like an opportunity that your gut needs to heal and that you've got to add some other things to make that happen.
Mm-hmm. So good. So with the, I would love for you to break down the pieces of your method because I feel like this is like such a easy framework for people to understand that can support them in being able to start building a foundation that then leads to never
Totally.
having to diet again.
Totally. Yeah. So, I mean, what you asked earlier is like, what did I learn over time? And like, it came down to these six pillars, which I call rules. And I use the word rules on purpose because I like to trigger people. Because I think that when we stay in the discomfort, that's where we have our growth. And so, like, our parents probably gave us a rule that we had to brush our teeth, and like, we fought them until it became a value of ours. And so that's what these rules are as well. They are meant to be a set of values that will help you now and really stay well for the rest of your life. So the first one is to eat when you're physically hungry. And there's a few parts to this rule, and people get lost on each one because that's, again, where they get triggered. So it's to eat when you're hungry. It's to take your normal portion, cut it in half, and wait 15 minutes to see if you need more food. And so when people here start with half, this is where they get like, they don't hear past it. And this to me was like a Gucci purse. Like I really wanted it, but I couldn't afford it. So I put it on hold and then I walked away and recognized, actually, I don't really want it. That was very impulsive. And so that 15-minute rule is for you, for your body to give you time to connect with your, your gut and your brain to make sure you actually need more food. It's your fail safe that you won't undereat or overeat, trusting that you can eat again in a couple hours. So that's rule number one. Rule number two is to eat what you love, again, because people do not like to be restricted. And when they start eating what they love, this opens an entire opportunity for them to see, wow, I didn't realize that the foods I loved actually made me sick. So the rule is eat what you love, but only the foods that love you back. Right. And so just some foods that don't love you back will give you a headache. They'll make you feel bloated. They could give you heartburn, diarrhea, constipation, joint pain, a slew of digestive issues. Rule number three is to eat without distraction. So this is really an opportunity for you to understand your emotional self and to separate your emotions from your physical self and to learn how to reparent yourself. So you can say, okay, I feel stressed. And when I feel stressed, I need to take deep breaths. And my mind is saying food is a good idea. This is an opportunity for me to recognize food isn't going to help me when I'm stressed, right? So that's really where that coaching for that emotional parts come in. Rule number four is to get 10,000 steps every single day. We do not move enough. And movement is good for, mind, digestion, sleep. I mean, literally everything. It lowers your risk of Alzheimer's. It decreases your risk of sudden death. I mean, like literally everything. We need to be fidgety and we need to move often in any way that you can with your arms. Just move. Rule number five is to get 8 cups of water. People are very confused with if they should drink a gallon, if they should drink less. We need at least 8 cups. And I don't count coffee or tea because those give your body something to break down. And I'd rather you just have simple water and the coffee and the tea if that's what you want. And the last rule is to get 7 hours of sleep. And the average American gets about 6.5. And they have problems falling asleep, they have problems staying asleep, and they have problems feeling rested in the morning. And all three of these contribute to weight gain or the inability to manage your weight. And so we really need to focus on good sleep hygiene.
Mm.
And that's
These,
it.
these are so good. I feel like there's nuggets in each of these, like just for example, the having half of your meal and then waiting 15 minutes. Like I realized I was having a conversation with my boyfriend the other day. I was like, wow, our portions are huge. if we just decided to cut our portions down just even a little bit, then probably wouldn't be struggling to keep the weight down, probably wouldn't be feeling as bloated at the end of the day or in the morning when I'm waking up. And so that's been a little change that we've made, and it has made a huge difference. It's like we're
I'm
not
sure.
changing what we're eating that by that much, more might be more intentional about putting the right things in there.
Yeah.
But just the portion size is so, I mean, it's so crazy in the United States. I'm so used to like massive plate being totally filled. And that has been such a game changer for me.
Yeah, I would agree. I would also, so keep in mind, because this is where people get a little confused. It takes 15 minutes once you started eating for your mind and your stomach to connect to tell you that you're satisfied. So we are very fast eaters and we can eat our
Yes.
entire meal in 6 or 7 minutes. And that leaves 7 or 8 minutes before we're going to know if we've had enough. And by then we're over full. And so if we take our normal portion and we cut it in half, and it takes us 3 or 4 minutes to eat, we still have 11 or 12 minutes before we're going to know. But if we can even slow down that first half, that's the goal to reducing like any GI bloating or distress. So
Mm.
my dogs are going crazy again. I'm so sorry. So annoying. But we don't like, first, I would say for you to smell your food. I don't know if you are in the habit of that.
No, not at all.
It's like a weird thing, but like even if I just say like lemons and we think about lemons, we should all start salivating.
Hmm.
And so when that happens, that's actually an alert to your stomach that your body's ready to break down food. If you don't
Mm.
have that release of saliva the second you see food, you're not actually ready to eat.
Ooh,
When we're
okay.
stressed or nervous, it's actually a coping mechanism not to eat. And
Right.
so just by taking deeper breaths, we will get that salivary release and then we'll have less bloating.
Okay.
That's number one. And then number two,
Revolutionary,
good,
revolutionary.
good. And number two, we need to chew our food longer than we think necessary. The reward of eating is actually not in the chewing. We get so excited to eat, but it's the anticipation.
Mm.
And we need to change it to actually what we're eating. And so we're so busy looking for the anticipation, and then we pile our fork more and more. We need to put our fork down and chew our food longer than necessary because this is a mechanical breakdown for digestion. And if we miss out on chewing really well, we're going to end up with gas and bloating.
This is blowing my mind right
Okay, good.
now. This is blowing my mind. Someone in the chat is saying, "I love this. I will do this from now on. Eat half and wait." So this is so big. No, I've never heard that before, and this really is like, and the smelling of the food, and I'm now like thinking about it. I'm like, am I salivating before I start eating? I don't think so. So this is like, it's blowing my mind. I mean, the six principles are so big, and it's funny because in some ways, like we hear about them in passing, but the way that you kind of broke down each of them makes it so much more tangible and easy to incorporate. And it, like you said, it's not restrictive. It's just
Shouldn't be.
simply being in tune and, like we were saying at the beginning of this conversation, choosing what your yes is and what you're a yes for.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be the same. We don't have to be the same and we can still be friends.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, I feel like I've been eating wrong my whole life. Heather, I totally understand. Heather's in the chat sharing that, and I get it. I feel like I have too. I feel, again, it's like when you come from a family where food is like such a center point, and like my dad would sit me down with a massive plate of pasta when I was younger, like rich Alfredo with like the creamiest cream, peas, prosciutto, and would say like eat that entire plate, like a adult sized plate, like a 300-pound man plate, and then give me my glass of milk at the end of the meal and say, here, you can have your milk now. So it's just like the programming I have around food, even though I've always been thin, has always been one where it's eating quickly, it's like shoving food down your mouth, not like really enjoying it, and eating a lot of it as well too. And so this whole past year I've been really working on being more intentional, slowing down, not having distractions either. When like that's been huge. I feel like whether it's TV or scrolling on Instagram or doing work, I see so many people that are
Totally.
just like doing multiple things at once. And like when somebody is eating and on their phone scrolling or watching a TV show, can you break down like what's actually happening there and why that's an issue?
Well, I mean, I'm just going to give you a story. I remember a client years ago who was telling me that her husband was in the emergency room. And I immediately thought, oh my God, that's so stressful. And she said, yeah. I said, what were you doing? And she said, I was sitting in the waiting room waiting for him. And I said, okay, how were you? And she's like, I was reading a magazine and I was eating M&Ms. And then I was like thinking, that's not so bad, the M&Ms. And she said, no, it was the big bag of M&Ms. And so I immediately like started thinking, I'm like, you're so stressed, you're distracted, and you're eating. I'm like, did you taste any one of those M&Ms? And she, was obviously like, actually, I don't think so. Right. And our mind wants to have pleasure in every moment. And so it's hardwired for survival and wants to do it in the most fun way. And when we are stressed, obviously food is more fun. And people will call themselves foodies all day long and do not want to be alone with their food. And it's the funniest thing to me. I'm like, just try and be alone with it. What happens? And they're like, well, actually, it's boring. And I'm like, yeah, because it's meant to be fuel. You should absolutely love what you eat. I don't want you to not love what you eat, but you shouldn't be distracted. You should be focused on the food that you love. It's really interesting how hard it is for people.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially because we have such short attention spans too, I'm sure like just even like creating the new habit of don't pick your phone up or don't bring
Yeah,
your phone to the kitchen island or the dinner table, wherever it is that you're eating your meals, like do it where you know you're not going to be distracted. And
yeah.
I mean, that's been one thing that I have implemented that has been I think slightly helpful, even though I'm still shoving food in my mouth and eating really quickly. So now I have extra homework now.
We all have work to do. The other night, I
Yeah.
went out for dinner with my girlfriends, and none of us were really satisfied with our meal. Like it wasn't enough food. And when I got home, I walked into my pantry and it was like 9 o'clock. And I remember thinking, I don't really need anything right now, but I ended up here. And it's really fun, I think, to laugh at your mind and the way it tries to like lie to you a little bit. And so once I recognized I was in the pantry and it was 9 o'clock, I checked in with my body and I'm like, I'm not so hungry. I did have dinner and I could go to bed. And I turned around and walked out. But I did, what's interesting, and I've been doing this forever, I did end up in the pantry.
Mm.
Right. And so it's really important to recognize that a win for you could be at any point and you can turn it around at any time.
Yes. Yeah. The other night we went out to dinner and got pizza and I just had a slice, but we ordered like a full pizza and brought it back home and the leftovers were in the fridge. And the next day, my boyfriend was like, do you want me to heat you up a slice? And I had already made the decision in my mind that I was going to make myself some chicken, broccoli, some brown rice. And it was just like instantaneous where I was like, yes, please. And then immediately after I was like, oh, wait, no, no, no. I'm actually just going to make
Right.
myself food. And so it was like I took the step and making the wrong decision, but instantly retracted me speaking out loud and asking my boyfriend to do it. And so I think, like you said, it's such a good reminder that like you do have the opportunity at any point to find that realignment.
Yeah, because I think we need to work on the space between the thought and the action. And when
Mm,
we have such heavy traffic, I mean, we all have at least 60,000 thoughts a day in a way to protect us, based on what we see, smell, feel, hear, or touch. It's all happening right now. And so we're moving so fast that I wouldn't like feel shame or punish myself or persecute myself for having that thought. It's really just like, oh, I didn't have space between the thought and the action. Now I have time to have the thought to put the space in, right? And then to change the action. And I
mm,
think that's where, breath work and meditation and walking, all these things are really important to giving you that space. We need to practice. We do everything about 47% the way we did the day before. We sleepwalk through almost everything.
Wow, what a statistic.
Yeah.
So when you're working with clients, how do you get them to wake up so that they're not sleepwalking through
Yeah.
47% of their life?
Yeah, it's a good point. I ask them to find their mind before they even go into rule number one. So if they are having a thought, food is a good idea, I teach them to recognize that's an alarm going off. And so just like if we were home and the alarm was going off, we would all stop whatever we were doing, walk to the alarm, turn it off, and then scan our environment to make sure we were safe, and then carry on.
So
And so
good.
so the thought to eat is an alarm. So we turn it off, we find our mind. We're here in this moment. My alarm went off. Now let me scan my environment. Did I have that thought because I'm hungry? Because I'm stressed, because I'm bored, because the food is in front of me, because I'm having a physical craving. And really, I teach my clients to eat for physical hunger, trusting that they should be hungry 5 or 6 times a day, that they have between 20 and 30 meals a week. They can't remember any of them, and that to practice being in this moment.
Mm. This is all so good. I love the way that you talk about this. It feels accessible. It doesn't feel out of reach. So just like thank you for the way that you are explaining all of this.
Thanks.
I want to go back to my comment on like the busy woman because a lot of the listeners of this podcast or watchers of this podcast are busy, successful female entrepreneurs. And I imagine given the types of clients you work with, that is a lot of of your clientele. So, one, what does space look like when you feel like you don't have space? And then what is a good place for people to start? Is it connecting to just the method and like following through those 6 steps? But for somebody who is in the mindset of I don't have time, JoJo's saying hi, everybody. Of I don't have time or I don't have space. What do you suggest? Because obviously there's so many different resources out there now, like Factor Meals or Sakara. There's like all these different meal delivery services. And there's definitely been times where I've thought to myself, maybe I should just invest in this so I can ensure that like I'm eating correctly.
Yeah.
But then there's also times when I'm like, maybe I should just meal prep, but I don't feel like I'm consistent with any of them. So
I
I'm
mean,
so
I
curious.
think like Sakara or Thistle, I think they are meal preps.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We need to be consistent in our routine. And if we're not consistent, we need to get back to being consistent as fast as we can, right? This is a long journey. This is not about being perfect. And so I do actually like food delivery for a lot of people because we're busy. And I need to know what I'm going to eat today. I need to know that I have food, or else I'm going to starve and I'm going to make bad decisions. And I'm most likely going to overeat something that I wasn't intending to eat because I need food and I become, like a beast if I'm hungry. So I do like a food delivery. I do like meal prepping in the form of knowing what you're going to have and that you have things available. You can always change your mind. I work from home and I sit for about 6 to 8 hours. I mean, sometimes I stand, or whatnot, but I'm pretty sedentary. So I make sure that I get up early in the morning and I meditate every single day. It's a non-negotiable for myself. Sometimes I do it in the shower. Sometimes I absolutely don't want to do it and I still do it. Sometimes I need to do it back to back twice because I need it so much. I think my baseline is anxious. So I really do well with meditation. It helps me set my intention. And then I go for a walk or I exercise every single morning because I really do not like myself if I don't. It's the one thing that I do to take care of myself before I can take care of my family or my clients.
Mm.
And while I'm like preparing my kids' lunches or breakfasts, I also prepare my lunch and my snacks. So by the time I get to my desk, I've already put coffee if I need it, water, snacks. They're already waiting for me between like the time I go for a walk and shower and end up working. So I already have everything planned by 8 o'clock in the morning. It's done.
I love that. It just is like make it easy on yourself so that
Yeah.
there's no excuses and so
Yeah.
there's no falling into reactive decisions either.
Right. And if I don't have anything at home, I just Postmate something. It has to be part of my plan. I have to have something planned and prepared because I get hungry.
Yeah. Yeah, I made the mistake today of not mapping out what I was going to eat. So I ordered sweet green and had half of I actually had half of it right before we hopped on this call. So it was perfect. I intuitively was taking your
Yeah,
advice
look at
before I
that.
heard it. Yeah, I love this. I think that it's so important. And when we think about how you were saying like food is fuel, if you're not giving yourself fuel, you're not going to be showing up 100% as a business owner, as a mother, as a partner, for yourself. Like I know without a doubt that when I'm hungry, like I am not that lovely of a human being to be around. And I'm definitely not firing on all four cylinders or five cylinders. See, I don't know. So
That's funny.
like I was saying, it's all connected, right? And like it's from what it sounds like, there's actually a lot of really simple things that you can do to set yourself up
What
for
it is.
success and not overcomplicate it.
I agree. I mean, if you look at all the studies on longevity, there's 8 pillars. They include 6 of mine, actually. And the next two are meditation and social connectedness.
Mm,
And so, like, if we're stressed and being hungry is stress, and our body responds in under 10 seconds and fires off 1,400 different, neurotransmitters and electrolytes and hormones, all these things that cause our body to be like feeling stressed. If that happens from hunger, this really hurts our health now and long term. So anything that we can do to stay grounded and to feel safe is the key.
mm. Speaking my words, my language. I love that so much. So, okay, I want to get like really, really tactical before we talk about the Never Diet Again masterclass in more detail. But for anybody listening who's like, okay, I am ready to show up for myself, to start getting my nutrition dialed in, what would you suggest as far as like go-to foods and just like hell yeses that across the board are going to be of high value to start picking up at the grocery store or prepping for yourself?
It's a really good question. I think it would come down to taking care of your gut. And so that would include, I would say, 5 different things: foods that are fermented, fruits and vegetables. You want to have a diverse amount of fruits and vegetables every single day, which means switch them up. You really want to have whole grains. And this can come from oats, it can come from wheat, it doesn't matter, but you definitely need whole grains because you need the fiber and the B vitamins.
Mm,
Then I would add fiber. So this is seeds, beans, legumes, and again, the whole grains, and then fruits and vegetables. And then what else is left? A probiotic and omega 3s. So you want to have fatty fish, or you want to add hemp seed, flaxseed, or chia seed every single day. Like I think these 5 types of foods are the most important to taking care of your body every single day.
mm. When you say like getting fibrous foods from like fruits and vegetables, but like switching it up, tell me, how do we combat the shelf life of our fruit and of our veggies? Because I swear I buy delicious strawberries and blueberries and raspberries, and they just get so mealy so quickly where I'm like, I only have like 2 days to eat all of this. So am I just needing to go to the grocery store more or
Yeah, basically, yes. Like I think we need to go to the market every 2 or 3 days. I was talking to somebody who was saying that their grandparents only get food that they need for that day. And every day they go to the market. And when you think about that social connection, I mean, that's a lot. I don't think we have time to go to the market every day, but coming up with strategies that we can go to the market more often. So I always buy, fruits that can sit on the counter, fruits that can go in the refrigerator, frozen fruits, there can be canned fruits, like all of them have different beneficial properties and have a place in your diet.
so frozen fruits and canned fruits, do they have as much
They
nutritional benefit?
do.
Okay.
And in some ways, like when you look at Kelly Clarkson and you look at lectins, when you can them or when you freeze them, it actually removes the ingredients that could cause some people to have GI distress. So all of
Interesting.
the vitamins and minerals, antioxidants, and fiber are still in there. The quickest way to destroy a fruit or a vitamin or fiber is to chop it, blend it, or grind it.
Mm,
We're,
okay.
we're all going to cut our fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if we're going to juice it, we got to drink it quickly to get all the nutrients.
Right, right. So interesting. Okay, this is so good. So you mentioned earlier about like the high protein fad that's going around. And I'm definitely someone who has experienced a lot of benefits of adding more protein into my diet. But the caveat to that is that it's not high protein, it's just actually getting closer to the amount of protein
Yeah,
that I need. Like I was getting such a small amount of protein.
totally.
So can you
Totally.
kind of share a little bit more about that? Because I think that
Yeah.
that's a really important distinction to make around like what is normal protein versus like the high protein trend.
Yeah. In general, we need about 20 to 25% of our total diet to come from protein. Protein is in every single vegetable, it's in every single grain, it's in all milks, and it's in all animal meats, so to speak, or animal products, just at different levels with different types of amino acid. If you're like a normal adult, which means that you're not growing, like you're not pregnant or recovering from a surgery, you need zero point 0.8 grams per kilogram, which mostly is between like 50 and 65 grams for most of us.
Okay.
If you're a child and you're growing, you need 1 gram per kilogram. If you're recovering from surgery, you need more like 1.1. So it's just small increments. It's not a big shift in how much we need. If you think about a piece of chicken and the chicken is the size of a deck of cards, it's about 3 ounces. Each ounce has 7 grams. That's 21 grams. If you're looking at a piece of bread, that has 3 grams. Vegetables have 2 grams. Milks have 8 grams, depending. So if you're talking about yogurts or a cup of milk, depending on which type you're having, non-dairy also has protein. So we're getting plenty of protein in lots of foods. And our body can't recognize really what we're eating, but it appreciates everything you're giving it. And if you're giving it more than it needs, it thinks that you're trying to store for the future. And so anytime we overeat, whether it's a strawberry or a piece of turkey, and we don't have room for it, our body will convert it to fat.
Okay. Again, mind is blown because I'm like, wait, why are people telling me to eat 125 grams, like my entire body weight of protein, which is so hard to do. It's
It's
so
not
hard to
necessary.
do.
Yeah, it's not even necessary. And it's also confusing. Even pregnant women get confused that they need more protein. The first trimester, they need no dietary changes. The second trimester, they only need to add about 300 calories. So this this idea of high or more really goes just like it just takes people to another place. And it's that's diet culture, that's extreme. So we have to be very careful. And we don't need as much. And our brain can't use it for fuel, right? It doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier. So if we think about this, the word carbohydrate, you hear the word hydrate in there. So when we eat carbohydrate, which is breads, fruits, vegetables, and milks, it's actually sugar attached to water. And we cannot absorb the water without the sugar. And so that sugar is what does cross the blood-brain barrier. So we use it to think and to process, right? And of course, there's different like quality foods, but we're not talking about that. We're just talking about carbohydrate in general. So if you go on a low carb diet, you're actually going on a low water diet, right? You're dehydrating because you
Wow.
can't actually absorb water if it's not attached to a sugar, which is why Gatorade is the number one hydrating drink because it's a sugar, water, salts, right? And so if you go on a high protein diet, you can't actually absorb water. So you end up looking leaner because our bodies are between 60 and 80% water. And all you really did do was dehydrate. And then the second you add back an apple, you look like an apple, and then you think you gained weight, but you really just rehydrated.
Yo, when Kim is speaking, my jaw is like literally on the ground. I'm like, I gotta pick my jaw up. This is Wow. I mean, I feel like you're demystifying so many of these like buzzy diet culture trends that we see everywhere. And like, I understand. I'm in marketing. I get it. People put polarizing content out there for a reason. It gets people to click, it gets people to pay attention. And a lot of people do get results from certain extreme diets. I think it's also important to say it blew my mind when I realized that a lot of these research articles on all of these different diets and fads are primarily on the male body and not
Totally.
actually on women's body. When I heard that, I was like, wow, I do not need to ever take advice from a Instagram ad or a like fitness professional that has
True.
zero idea about my body.
Can you just say that louder? It's true. It's really scary out there.
It really, really is. So, okay, I am obsessed with you, first and foremost. Second, I'm so grateful. Okay, yeah, we see in the chat my jaw's at my belly button. Mind blown. I love that. Okay, so you are inside of the bundle, which I'm seriously so excited because now I'm gonna instantly go into the masterclass and I'm like, I cannot wait to learn from you. But let's talk really quickly before we wrap up about the Never Diet Again masterclass, how people can utilize this masterclass and like what it's really going to lead them into.
Well, it's many different segments, right? And so you can go at your own pace. And I feel like what I learned in organic chemistry, and the only thing I learned in organic chemistry, I think, was not to move on to chapter 2 until I fully understood chapter 1, because everything lays the foundation. And so, what you'll have the opportunity to do in this course is really start with rule number 1, understanding what hunger feels like and why you're even eating, right? So, this is going to change your entire relationship with food and probably the way that you see everyone's relationship with food. So, I often say you can take back your health with it because now what's happening is you're going to develop a boundary that says, I hear you. And if that works for you, great. But I listen to my own body. So it's really foundational. Each
Yeah.
one leads on to the next, and you can go at your own pace. And it's basically all 6 of the rules. And I mean, it's jam packed. It's about 4.5 hours of information.
Wow. That is incredible. Thank you so much for adding that into the bundle. I was so excited when you got on board because, I think we have tons of, money resources and career resources, but like I was saying, in truth, like this affects all of it, right?
All
If
of it.
we don't have our health dialed in, if we aren't eating to fuel ourselves, if we have a sticky relationship to food, it impacts our ability to show up as entrepreneurs, as leaders. It impacts our relationships, it impacts our confidence, it impacts our self-trust.
All of
And
it.
like it's so, so big. So I'm so grateful that you decided to join the bundle and that you kicked off our podcast week because this conversation was so much fun. I learned literally so much from it. There's very rare podcast when like I feel the entire time like my mind is just like expanding, 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 and
I
I have
love
some
that
pretty
so
epic
much.
guests on. So I feel very, very grateful for the time we've gotten to spend together. Will you share with everybody where they can follow you, find you? Obviously, if you guys are listening to this, you can join the bundle. We'll link it in the comments, and then it'll also be included in the show notes for anybody watching the replay. It's available today through next week on Tuesday, which I believe is June 4th. So make sure that you get the bundle now. It's $7,000 worth of courses for $99. It's crazy.
Crazy.
And it's incredible thought leaders like Kim, just with the best of the best as far as courses, master classes, and programs go. So that's going to be one of the spaces where you can find Kim and get a taste of her work. But outside of that, where else can people follow you and find you?
They can find me everywhere at kimshapiramethod.com or like just Kim Shapira Method. I think everywhere. I'm on all social platforms.
Amazing. So good. Thank you again for coming on, for sharing your knowledge, for sharing your passion. It is so felt. And I'm just so grateful that we got to have this conversation.
Me too. I feel the same. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here live, for engaging in the chat. This was a fun conversation. So, if you're watching this on replay, make sure that you share your biggest takeaways in the comments. And as I mentioned, we have the Vision Board Life Bundle. It's academyofbreath.org/bundle. If you guys have any questions about it at all, you can reach out to myself or my team via DM on Instagram at Ava Johanna or via email, hi@avajohanna.com. But definitely get your hands on the bundle because this masterclass sounds so epic.